Well, how the hell are you, vinyl community? Brian here, Shamrock'n Records. Haven't seen you guys in 4 months. I figured, you know what? Why not make a video? I figured let everybody in the vinyl community forget about Shamrock'n Records. And then right when you forget, I just come back and blast you with another video. So, how's everybody doing out there? I've been thinking about like a topic, right? Because I don't ever do topics. And I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to do something like this for years. Ever since I started making videos. I don't know why I've never done it. But today, I want to talk about 5 of the most influential records for me. 5 of my favorite records. 5 records that basically changed the way I listen to music. You know, the records that inspired me to start listening to other musicians. I'm gonna probably start back in high school and kind of work my way up. And hopefully you'll like what I show. I am having a little pumpkin ale today. It is the fall. And, you know, make fun of me. I don't care. I mean, you know, I drink pumpkin spice coffee and pumpkin beer. I live in Maine, you know. And I don't know if you can see this. No, I don't think you can see. Maybe right there. Shamrock'n Records glass from my buddy AJ. He got married last month, and this was a gift to me for being in his wedding party, but I don't think you can see it. But anyway, it's a Shamrock'n Records glass that you can drink pumpkin beer out of. So anyway, let's get started. So, a little backstory. I grew up in New York, upstate New York, and basically my entire childhood I listened to metal, hair metal. You know, I think one of the very first things I ever bought was Twisted Sister. You know, then I was in the Motley Crue and Whitesnake and, you know, Extreme and all this, you know, Ozzy. And then there was one day, my buddy Cahal picks me up in his car and we're going to school. I think I was in 10th grade. And he's playing this record on his cassette deck. It wasn't even a CD player. Yeah, it was a cassette. And he calls playing this, and I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, it's R.E.M, blah blah blah, you know, Losing My Religion had just come out. It was like nothing I was listening to. And so he starts playing this. You know, I grew up in a very musical house. My mom and dad, not musicians, but they always had records playing. So that's why I've always loved vinyl. I was always fascinated with my mom and dad's collection. I was always drawn to it, pulling things out, you know, spinning this. What does this sound like? You know, my parents listened to everything from, you know, Deep Purple and Ozzy and Black Sabbath, you know, like metal kind of stuff, but then they're also listening to the Rolling Stones and Van Morrison and the Flying Burrito Brothers and Caravan and like all you Cactus, whatever. So I grew up in a very well-rounded musical environment. So I hear this playing in my buddy's car and I'm like, wow, man, like that's really friggin' cool. I was like, it reminds me of the Birds, you know? And so this kind of brought me out of my metal stage. I really just stopped listening to hair metal, you know? It's the early 90s, you know, hair metal was starting to fade. Alternative music was starting to come out. And this really resonated with me. This really started getting me, like I said, it brought me back to start listening to the Birds. So I started grabbing my mom and dad's Birds records. You know, Tom Petty. It got me into other alternative bands at the time. I started listening to, Toward the West Sprocket, the Gin Blossoms. This record changed everything. Like that day, driving to school, I didn't want to listen to metal anymore. I wanted to see what else was out there. And this is the first record that I remember that really did that. Another record that just floored me the first time I heard it was Tomorrow the Green Grass by the Jayhawks. Now, this came out when I was a freshman in college. Just graduated high school. This comes out, and I hear Blue on the radio. I'm like, whoa, what the hell is that? And I remember I got this like right away, and I couldn't stop listening to this record. I'm like, and this started getting me into alt country. It reminded me of from what I knew. From like just listening to things in my mom and dad's house. I was like, holy shit, man, this reminds me of the Rolling Stones, like the country, like Dead Flowers, like Sticky Fingers kind of stuff. I was like, it just killed me. I couldn't stop listening to this record. I wanted anything else that sounded like it. So I'm like going out looking for other things. What sounds like this, And then you start going down like alt country stuff. It starts getting you into Uncle Tupelo, and then Whiskey Town, the old 97s, and like the harmonies on this, the jangly guitars again is very similar to like the Byrds. So it reminded me of the Byrds. It reminded me of the Stones. It reminded me of Flying Burrito Brothers, and I really just started evolving. Getting out of, like I said, that metal from before, and I just started, starting to get more into country, started getting more into singer-songwriters. I really got really into Arlo Guthrie, Bob Dylan, and I love lyrics. I'm a lyricist. That's what I'm drawn to, and this music really got me into that. Now, talking about lyrics, this next record, I remember going to my friend Mike Curran's dorm room one night. He went to RPI College in Troy, New York. And I remember we were at his house. We're all partying. There was like a party at the college one night. And then after all the parties were like done, a few of us went back to his room at his fraternity, and we're just spinning music, CDs at the time now, and Mike played this record. It blew my mind. Like, what the F is this? It was Closing Time by Tom Waits. Wow. This was my freshman year again in college. And so we're talking like 94, 95. And I hear this, I hope that I don't fall in love with you. Man, that single song still today is I think one of the most beautiful stories, one of the best songs I've ever heard in my entire life. It's easily a top 5, maybe a top 3. Maybe number 2 favorite song for me, with Into the Mystic by Van Morrison being my favorite song of all time. But man, Tom Waits. This, again, another record that just changed me. So, I mean, I didn't even know, like Old 55. I didn't know that he wrote it. I knew it by the Eagles, and you start listening to Tom Waits, and you're like, oh, I know that song. I heard it by so and so. Like he's just such a prolific songwriter. And I'm a, you know, he evolved. He had changed his sound as he goes on in his career. He's very, you know, he starts getting that raspy voice. This is not like that. This is just just a piano man. You know, you can understand what the hell he's saying, and his music is gorgeous, and this is easily a top 5 favorite record for me. Love it. Tom Waits, Closing Time. So now, this next record, the greatest thing about these records is that you're not expecting them. These records, I wasn't expecting. I didn't go out searching for these. These found me, you know, like I just heard it and I was like, what the, you know, what is that? Like, I need to know who this is. So this next one, I went on a vacation with a bunch of my friends. We had rented a house on Cape Cod in Massachusetts for a week. And, you know, there was a couple couples and some friends. There was probably like, I don't know, 6 or 8 of us there staying there for the week. And the very first day we get there, we're all like unpacking the car. And my buddy puts this CD on. And I'm like, who the hell is this? This is freaking amazing. Who is this? He's like, oh, it's Pontiac by Lyle Lovett. You never heard this? No, it blew me away. So, the very first song, If I Had a Boat, you know, I'm at Cape Cod, I'm on the ocean, and he's talking about riding his horse on a boat in the ocean. So, it immediately just took me by storm. We listened to this, we listened to this all week that week. I was just like, well, I got to hear Pontiac again. Play it again. Every song on here, it blew me away. This got me more into, you know, even though I was into singer-songwriters, you know, I had always heard of Lyle Lovett. I was always, you know, the thing about Lyle Lovett is he gets pigeonholed into country. And it's not fair because he's country, he's blues, he's jazz, he's singer-songwriter folk. I just hate how he gets pigeonholed. You know, it's kind of like Van Morrison. Like, I always kind of compare Lyle to Van, because Van's all over the place too. You know, he's jazz, he's blues, he's rock, he's soul. Lyle is the same way. His lyrics are amazing. The large band, he's got a great sense of humor. If it wasn't for Lyle, I probably would have never gotten into John Prine, Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark. You know, definitely Guy Clark. Because I will tell you, Lyle Lovett, not on this record, but Lyle Lovett sings one of my most favorite songs called Step Inside This House. And it was a song written by Guy Clark, but Guy Clark never performed it himself. He gave it to, I believe it was Guy Clark's first song he ever wrote. And he ended up letting Lyle use that song for his record, Step Inside This House. And it is one of the most fascinating songs I've ever heard. It's mind-blowing. So if you ever get a chance, listen to Step Inside This House by Lyle Lovett. If you've never listened to Guy Clark, you will immediately want to go out and start buying Guy Clark records, because it's one of the best songs. And Guy Clark didn't like the song. He didn't think it was well written. And I think it's one of the best songs I've ever heard. So now I get a little bit later on in life now. So now it's like 2007. So it's not 15 years ago now. Wow. And I was living right outside Boston. I go to Newbury Comics one day, and I remember distinctly buying the newest Buffalo Tom record. And it was called 3 Easy Pieces. And when you bought that, they gave you like a little sampler CD of like other new music that was coming out. And there was a band called the Avett Brothers on there. And the name of the song on that sampler was called In the Curve, which was never put on any of their records. It's only been released on that sampler CD. And I loved it. And then I had heard at that time, the Avett Brothers were opening up for Dave Matthews, which I know a lot of people in the vinyl community don't like Dave Matthews. So be it, you know. But I do. And Dave Matthews almost made this list because of Dave Matthews, he opened up my ears to a lot of other people. Just the people that opened up for Dave, because Dave wanted to have like undiscovered talent opening for him. So Dave Matthews had the Avett Brothers opening for them before they were anything. Dave Matthews had Sharon Jones, then, you know, Sharon Jones opening before Sharon was anything. When 100 Days, 100 Nights came out, the Hold Steady. So he gets pigeonholed, but he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. But anyway, that's a whole nother video. This record though, Emotionalism by the Avett Brothers, is one of the last records, I would say. I mean, the last 15 years, this is probably the most influential record for me in the last 15 years. It really got me into bluegrass. It opened up my ears to other newer indie folk rock. You know, Old Crow Medicine Show got me into Dawes, got me into Ockerville River, and all of these newer folk bands. But these are the ones. The harmonies. I will tell you, my mom and dad were big Loggins and Messina fans, right? Huge Loggins and Messina fans. The very first song that when they had me when I was born, was Danny's song by Loggins and Messina. So it was on all the time at my house. All right. I will tell you, some of this stuff reminds me of Loggins and Messina. And man, the harmonies, the way they just, the way that they write their lyrics, the Avetts, man, they just changed everything for the probably last 15 years for me. Got me into other, you know, got me into Josh Ritter, got me into so many other folk band, Deer Tick. But anyway, those are 5 of my favorite, 5 of the most influential records that helped change the way I listen to music, help just evolve, you know. I would love to see what you guys think of these records, but what 5 records help change you, mold you? You know, I don't think I've ever seen this topic, and I've been doing vinyl community videos. I don't know, 5, 6, 7. Who knows how many years I've been doing it? I don't make enough to remember. But anyway, I would love to see what are your 5 favorites? What changed you? Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers.